Gear scrap and gear tokens are the most valuable resources in Brawl Stars by far, so you can't just go throwing them in the trash like a 10-day-old casserole. You really got to think about what brawlers you're putting each gear on. But luckily, you don't have to think too hard about it, because that's what I'm here today for. I'm going to go one by one through each of the 5 gears and tell you the most important brawlers that you need to prioritize putting those gears on. That'll let you distribute your gear tokens in the best possible way, and then you can just allot gear scrap to level up whichever ones you like playing the most. But generally, you want to spread out the gears as much as possible, and I'd say you get a lot more fun per gear scrap if you distribute the gears across a lot of different brawlers rather than consolidating them all into one brawler. So let's start with the shield gear, because this one's the easiest one. You basically just want to put the shield gear on brawlers that have really low health. The reason for this is because that's going to change the most important interactions with those particular brawlers. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say you're playing Eve and you're going up against a Piper. Now, Piper can do just over 4,500 damage at max range, power level 11, with 2 of her shots. That's a number that Pipers are going to be able to hit pretty consistently. They hit one shot, pop a homemade recipe, hit you with the second shot, boom, 4,500 damage, just like that. If you're playing Eve though, you only have 4,350 health at max, so you're gonna die to 2 shots. But if you have the shield gear, that extra 600 damage on the shield is going to make you not die in 2 shots from Piper, meaning Piper can't use a gadget to finish off a kill on you, which is huge and makes it so much harder for Piper to win a lane against you in that situation. And this is just one example out of thousands of possible combinations that can happen in any particular game. But the lower health you are, the more significant the interactions are. No one really cares whether or not a Piper can 5-shot or 6-shot a Frank, because it's never going to happen in game. It's a lot more likely for low health brawlers to be taken out really quickly, and those are the interactions that you really want to change, and shield gear is going to help you do that. So just prioritize your shield gears on the lowest health brawlers in the game, plain and simple. Next is the vision gear, which is the most recent gear we've had added to the game, replaced the resistance gear, and it lets you see your opponents up to 2 seconds after you deal damage to them. Now, you have to actually deal damage to them. It can't be something that you spawn. So something like Anita Bear or the turret from Janet's gadget aren't going to actually reveal your opponents, so do keep that in mind when assigning this gear. But the brawlers that really need vision are going to be sharpshooters that really need to see where their opponents are in order to accurately aim their shots. But the thing is, these brawlers aren't the ones you want to put the vision gear on, they're just the people who you want to be on a team with when you're running a vision gear. So the people who you want to put a vision gear on are just people who can really easily tap people who are hiding in grass. So that way you can help out all of the sharpshooters and people who have projectiles that they really need to aim on a particular spot on your team. But like I said, you want brawlers that can cover a lot of area pretty quickly, so that way they can scout out anyone who's in the grass, and once you hit someone, even if it's just a tiny little bit of damage, they'll be revealed and it'll be a lot easier for your team to come and clean them up. This can make it one of the most powerful gears in the game if you use it on the right map with a lot of grass. So brawlers with long range and a lot of projectiles are great to have vision gear on. Things like Pam, Crow, Jean especially, Spike as well, who can hit from such a far range away. They can hit around walls too. It's so easy to just get one single bit of damage on your opponents, and that's all you need for the vision gear to be activated and the rest of your team to come in, clean up whatever needs to be done. It also works particularly well on poison brawlers like Crow and Byron, because even though you might think you can already see your opponents while they're poisoned, right? But with the vision gear, it keeps them in constant view. It doesn't have that sort of flickering in and out like you would see with the poison, and that makes it just that much more easy to hit your shots. Not only that, but after the last tick of poison, it's going to still leave them visible for another 2 seconds, since that 2 seconds resets every time they take a tick of damage. And so you're going to be able to see them for 2 seconds longer than you initially would if you have the level 3 vision gear, and that's really powerful and something you can't get with any other brawler. You're just going to have these people exposed for so long, and that can really change the tide of a game when you need it. Other brawlers that have a similar poison type effect like Sandy's Super might also be decent to use the vision gear on a map like Sneaky Field or something where there's a ton of grass, and it just helps to be able to really know exactly where everyone is and not just have them flickering in and out, which can be a bit inconsistent to go off of at times. Moving on to the health gear, I think this is the one that people have the biggest misconception of, because it doesn't matter how much HP you have, the health gear is going to have the exact same benefit. It doesn't change the time it takes to actually start healing. That's always going to be exactly 3 seconds. What it does do is increase the amount you get from each tick of healing by 50%. So what that equates to is essentially a 33% reduction in the time it takes you to heal back up to full health. Each tick of health typically gives you back 13% of your max health. So no matter how much your max health is, it always takes 8 ticks of healing to go to full health. But with this gear, that 13% gains 50% of the 13%, and 50% of 13% is 6.5, so it goes to 19.5% total. And so the higher health brawlers will get more of a benefit, strictly speaking, than lower health brawlers, but it's going to save you the exact same amount of time no matter what brawler you use it on. So even brawlers with low health can get decent value out of the health gear. It just matters how much you're planning on taking a lot of damage and then going back to heal throughout the match. You don't want to sort of force yourself into healing a lot more than you typically would, because that's just going to get you to play inoptimally. There's no need to like try to enforce the value in this gear. You just want to put it on brawlers that you're naturally going to be taking a lot of damage with, but also playing a bit safe and making sure you're healing up. Now, to be fair, that typically does correlate with higher health brawlers, because a lot of times when you have that higher health, you can be a bit more aggressive and take a lot more damage without fully dying. So it is true, on higher health brawlers, you can get a lot of value out of the health gear, but assassins, you know, like Buzz, Fang, maybe even like El Primo who jumps in with his super, you're not going to get too much value out of it, simply because a lot of times you just throw yourself at your opponents and either they die or you die first. So it doesn't really matter much about how fast your healing goes, since you're not going to be healing from low health a lot of times in the game. This gear is also very mode dependent, which, you know, doesn't affect which brawler you're assigning it to, but keep in mind that it's not always going to be good for every single mode. In Brawl Ball, when things are a lot more fast paced and typically a lot more aggressive between the two teams, you're probably going to be dying a bit more often, or at least you won't have the time to heal up as much. It's not going to be as good in those modes, where something like Bounty, where you have to stay alive at all costs, or Gem Grab if you're the gem carrier, where you really cannot die, you're going to be playing very safe and healing up whenever you can. So in those situations, healing gear is a lot better. So for brawlers that are good as a gem carrier in Gem Grab, you know, Jeans, Pams, long-range brawlers like Bells and Pipers actually get decent value out of the health gear, even if some of them might not have that much health in total. Simply because it allows them to apply more pressure, it saves 1 or 2 seconds every time you're healing back up to max, which really adds up over time, especially if your opponents aren't running the health gear to have that same effect. With speed gear, nearly every brawler can benefit from it, because on grassy maps, a lot of the times, basically every single brawler is going to be running a speed gear if there's enough grass. And so that doesn't necessarily mean, though, that you should just spend your speed gear on whatever brawlers, because there are some brawlers that basically need the speed gear in order to be good, or are basically only played on grassy maps anyways, and so you want to prioritize those brawlers to assign your speed gears to. These are going to be your brawlers that really need to get close to an opponent in order to deal a lot of damage. So any brawler with a lot of long range really doesn't need the speed gear all that much. But medium range brawlers with high burst damage like Ems, Sandy, Terra can all do very, very well with speed gear, and I would prioritize it on those brawlers, as well as really close range brawlers. Melee brawlers like Rosa are going to do really well with it, especially since she's used on grassy maps all the time and can even make grass herself, so Rosa's a great combination with the speed gear, but you want to prioritize it on brawlers with a lot of burst damage at medium or close range. And then finally, the damage gear. Once again, like the speed gear, this has great value on basically every single brawler, but there are a couple things you want to think about when prioritizing where to assign your damage gears. First of all, since it's a percentage-based increase, it increases the damage by 20% whenever you're below half health. That means the more damage a brawler does, the more increase the gear is going to have. So you want to prioritize the damage gears on brawlers that already do just a ton of damage, because that's going to get the most value out of it. But not only that, you also want to think about brawlers who just generally will have this gear activated a lot of the time, meaning they're going to be up and in the middle of a fight while less than 50% health, because if you're going to die very quickly after falling below 50% health, or you need to play safe with a particular brawler and you're always going to retreat whenever you fall below 50% health, you're not going to get much value out of the gear. So brawlers with really high HP or really low HP are generally more likely to be in this range. And the reason of that is because when you're high HP and you take a lot of damage, you still have a lot of HP left, so you don't always have to retreat immediately, and so you can get a lot of value out of the damage gear by still staying in battle while still staying alive. And for super low HP brawlers, something like a Spike, well, you fall below 50% super easily, and as long as you can stay at long range, you're still going to stay alive. So if you just get hit by one shot from Piper as a Spike, you're instantly in damage gear range, and all your attacks from then on are going to be boosted by 20%, which is huge, especially since you have such a long range, and you can just continue to throw out those high damage attacks while not being at risk of dying. Two other brawlers that you really should prioritize the damage gears on, because they basically exploit the 50% is Meg and Janet. The reason is because Meg in her mecha is guaranteed to fall below 50%. It's inevitable, and it's just a natural part of playing Meg. And even when you fall to 0, you don't die. So you're at less of a risk when you're below 50% in the mecha as Meg, and you can stay there for a long period of time with her healing gadget. It's so good to have a damage gear on Meg. I'd say by far she is the best brawler to have damage gear on. And then Janet, similarly, when she falls below 50% health, you can stay there for a super long period of time by instantly going into your super. So if you always use your super right after you fall below 50% health, you don't heal while you're in your super, so all the bombs you drop from your super are gonna have the boosted 20% damage, and then if you keep attacking when you land, you'll stay within that range, or you can choose to back away and heal, but you'll have that boosted damage for as long as you are in your super, and that can clean up some kills that you might not have been able to get otherwise. And so I think if I counted right, that should be all 5 of the gears. Let me know in the comments what the next brawler you're going to be spending your gear tokens on is. Please subscribe to this channel if you like this content. It means the world to me. I'll see you guys in the next one.